What's good, everyone? I'm Marcus from Twisted Barbell, and I'm here at Executive Fit with my friend Nate, who runs ExecutiveFit LLC. You all know him from being like the deadlift platform maker. I'd say the deadlift platform king, because he makes some fantastic customized deadlift platforms. So I'm here with him today in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and talk to him about what he does and share all that information with you guys. So Nate,
Definitely.
say hello to everyone.
What's up, you guys? As you know, my name is Nate. I am the owner of Executive Fit. We build custom deadlift platforms. We also do custom rack headers. Our third popular product is the Deadlift Box, which pairs really nice with your AbMat crash pads to create an ultimately modular platform system, basically. I'm excited to just show you guys the shop today, kind of a little bit of what we do. We'll take a dive into the epoxy room, into the machine. We'll take some look at how the machine runs and all that. So
yeah, excellent. So we'll definitely talk about some of these products that he mentioned and show you some of those, as well as some of the really cool signs that he has all around here. Nate's going to be kind enough to run the CNC behind us so that way we can see some of the work that he does and then show you some of the results and products.
all right, let's get after it. To do multicolor inlays, you have to be able to reference the same spot over and over and over again. So with my machine, I've programmed this spot. I'll show you. If I hit park position 1 on the interface, it's going to send the machine to this left front corner here. What that's going to allow me to do is every time I turn this machine on, I hit that button and it will come to this exact same spot every single time to start the job, right? You may not be able to see on the camera, but we have X, Y, and Z here on the interface. And what it's showing is that this position in space, where the gantry is right now, is X0 and Y0. So that's our starting point. And what you may or may not be able to see on the screen, there's a bracket that's attached to the machine here. So every time we come and we set up a piece of material, we put it on the machine and we can move it all the way over to the left and all the way down. And then we turn our vacuum hold down on, and now what's really neat about that is this piece of material is being held there by a vacuum in the other room that's plumbed to the bottom of the machine to hold it down.
I don't even see like any perforated holes on this to hold it down.
No, right. So this material here, which is what you call a wasteboard. It's called a wasteboard because it gets ruined. You probably can see all of the cuts in it from cutting through other jobs. This is kind of like a sacrificial piece. It's MDF. It's called ultralight MDF. So it's very porous. So underneath it, you have ridges where the air passes through. So it's an acrylic piece underneath with a grid pattern cut into it, and then a white PVC pipe plumbed to that. So when you put the MDF on it, the air is being sucked down through. What I didn't know until recently, actually, is it's not the air that you're sucking down that holds it. It's the lack of atmosphere underneath the piece that you're removing. And so there's positive pressure in the atmosphere above your material, which is actually what's pushing down on the piece to keep it there.
That's amazing.
I always thought it was like the air movement that's holding it, but it's actually the lack of atmosphere and the positive pressure above it that's holding it there. It's really wild.
That explains the lack of perforated holes, like in an air hockey table.
Right.
Like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, it still keeps us down. I can't believe this doesn't budge.
It's totally wild. It's totally wild. So from here, what I typically do is I'll tape the seam of whatever we're running. If this were a deadlift platform, we would just be a little bit bigger, but this is just going to be a sign that we're making. We have to tell the machine where the surface of the material is, because I only want it to cut down a certain depth. That depth is just over 1/8 of an inch deep, but until we tell the machine where the surface of the material is, it doesn't know what it's doing.
It needs a reference point.
Right, it needs a reference point. So we're going to use what's called a tool length sensor, which is just a little button the machine is going to touch off of, and you can see it's wired to the back of the machine, so it knows when it clicks the button, right? Because it knows the thickness of the tool length sensor, it now knows where the surface of the material is. We're going to be using 2 tools to run this. We're going to be using this larger bit to clear out most of the material, and then we're going to be using a smaller bit to kind of get the intricate details of the shape. Now, the shape that we're cutting is a circle, So the larger bit would probably do just fine. But if you had a design with like a sharp corner that you wanted to reach into, and the larger bit couldn't reach into that, you could use a smaller bit to get closer to that point. So typically, I would put a dust shoe on this and have the dust hose connected to that to evacuate all the chips and the dust. But we're just going to do this manually so that we can see what it looks like. Here we go. So everything in between those two lines, when it's done, is going to be removed. So that is all that bit's going to do. It's going to go get the second bit and finish cutting out with the larger diameter. So at this point, what will happen now is we'll take it over to the epoxy room, we'll pour the epoxy in it, and then once that color cures, and we can cut back into it, we'll put it back on the machine again and cut the next color associated with this logo. So that's essentially how the epoxy inlay process works. Take your logo, however many colors there are, and cut it, pour it, cut it, pour it, cut it, however many colors.
So something like this, I know the process with the epoxy takes days, right? So 5 colors, how long would that take?
A week.
A week, okay.
1 week.
More colors, the longer time it takes for the epoxy inlay,
That's
the
right.
curing,
That's right.
and then the cutting.
That's right, yep. We have a kind of a process that we've developed where it allows us to be able to do these kind of inlays on materials other than like hardwood.
Right.
A lot of woodworkers and guys that are doing this are doing epoxy inlays on hardwood and then flattening it at the very end and taking 1/8 of an inch off. Right. You can't take 1/8 of an inch off of a plywood platform insert. You'll cut down into the layers of the plywood and it's no good. So yeah, our process is a little bit involved, but at the end of the day, it's the reason we have 100% no peel guarantee. So
All of your deadlift platforms are always plywood.
yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. We've done some hardwood platforms. I don't find any significantly higher benefit than doing plywood. And plywood is a little bit more stable than hardwood. Once hardwood likes to warp and move, it's pretty much going to go.
Right.
You can't stop it.
Right.
So we want to use material that's going to be stable and it's not going to warp and move over time. That's like the machining part of epoxy inlays. So extrapolate what we just saw over however many colors to do a logo, and that's how long it takes. All right, guys, so this is kind of like the other half of the shop. We do a lot of our assembling, sanding, and finishing process here on these tables. We've got a great big cabinet table saw, and this is kind of what we use to cut down the underlayment pieces of the platform. It's a great big 220 saw. There's like practically 0 safety features on it, so it's very dangerous, but it is very fun to use. I have a couple of projects here on the table to kind of give you guys an idea of everything that we do. This is one of our like black and white gym signs that we make. We use a CNC machine to make it. All of this stuff is cut out individually out of that associated color material. All the black lettering is cut out of black material, and we have some smaller lettering V-carved into this, and then it all gets glued together for a really nice finished home gym or public gym sign, really. We make all of our boxes in-house on the CNC machine, so everything is shipped out really nice. You can see how this sign fits just really well inside this box. Next to it, we have our second popular product, aside from the platforms, is our deadlift box. It's reinforced on the bottom, so when you're standing and lifting on it, you're not going to break through that top layer of wood. It's pretty light. They're about 25 pounds each. They got integrated handles on the sides, and then we've also incorporated speed pin holes. There's a metal plate that gets attached to the backside here, so you can slide your speed pins in to stick out here and use bands, incorporate band work with banded deadlifts or rows or pretty much anything. And because you're standing on the box and the bands are anchored to the sides, it's not going to go anywhere on you. We'll engrave our logo over in the corner, and then if you wanted your logo larger in here, we could do that as well. We also don't have a size limit on how big to do the logo. A lot of companies are, well, we can only go such and such. We have a great big machine. We're not going to limit size of logos. Let's go big. So this is probably our second most popular product, second or third most popular product, I would say. Our runner-up, I would say, is our custom rack headers. These are some custom headers for surplus strength. It's just the header panel itself. You can see it's nice and flexible and light. So this material is called PVC. It's commonly known as AZAC. It's essentially plastic. They use it a lot, like down at the beach in construction, because unlike wood, it won't rot over time. It can get wet and then dry and wet and dry, and it won't. Like deck material, exactly right. So we buy it in sheet form, and we machine it to spec to fit Rogue Monster Light, the Rep PR 5000s. We do surplus strength headers, and then we also have a universal header option where we use a little bit of a thicker material for the universal header, and then we put magnetic angle brackets on the back side of it. So as long as you have a regular 2x2 or 3x3 cross member, that will just stick right on there. And we use rubberized magnets on it, so they're very strong. You can re-rack weights and cause vibration into the rack, and it's not going to fall off. This is an example of an epoxy inlay that's almost finished, that we have in process. At this point, it's ready to be sanded. You can see some excess overpour of the red over on the black, like on the R here, a little bit on the P, over on the border color black here. So all that red, it needs to be sanded off, which we do by hand. It all gets sanded flush to reveal these nice sharp lines between the red and the black. Looks like a mess right now, looks kind of cool, but it's not what the final looks like. The final will look much better. All of this is going to get sanded. We do all of our sanding by hand. That way we can ensure that as it's being sanded, we don't sand too much and we don't sand too little. We can get it just right. The machine will help with some of this, with flattening it, but for the most part, most of this happens by hand. We'll move over here to this special job here. This is for a friend of mine down in Columbia, Tennessee. We're making a little platform for him to stand on, and people at his gym to come stand on and take pictures in this caricature doing a double bicep flex. So this is for Kingdom Strength Studio down in Columbia, Tennessee. Really neat project. I've never made one of these before, but that's kind of some of my favorite things to do is when people bring me an idea or show me an example of something and say, hey, can you make this? I'm like, well, I never made it before, but like, we're going to go and do it. It's going to be another assembly table. For now, it's totally in process. The top that is on it is my top. It's the ExecutiveFit logo. It says iron sharpens iron. It's one of my favorite proverbs. Everything is epoxy inlaid on this, and as you can see, it's in process. Some of it's sanded, some of it's not quite sanded. So we have a little more to do until this one is done. However, the plan for this is to use it as our table at shows. So when we go to conventions, when we do vendor shows, we're going to have this as kind of our move in and move out table. So this idea came to me after Home Gym Con. The idea is I want to build a table that we can use to put our entire booth on, move into the exposition hall to our booth, unload and set up the booth, and then at the end be able to put everything on one table and move it out. And the idea came to me because we had to walk so far from where our booth was to where the loading dock was at Home Gym Con. So we were like, instead of doing all of these trips with a small hand dolly, what if we just made a heavy duty table that could do that? So obviously you can see the top here. This is real wood. This is oak. We're going to finish the edges of this, just like a deadlift platform gets finished with the metal edging and the corner caps, and it's going to look really good. The legs, or the frame of the table, as you can see, is on casters. So if I unlock it, it just moves super, super easily. The actual frame of the table was cut on the CNC machine. So you can see all of this is just 3/4 exterior MDF that we glued together and then cut notches in for the uprights to notch into the cross members, right? I'm going to use a little gym terminology there. And so everything is cut and notched, screwed and glued together. It doesn't look that great right now. We're going to add basically a nice matte black faceplate to the sides and the front of it. So it'll look super clean when it's done. The bottom is going to get a table, or like, not a table, but a plate on the bottom so that we can actually put stuff down there. And then obviously this will be on the top. All right, so that's basically the plan with this table here. I do actually plan to use it in the shop assembling, packing, and shipping stuff, but I may put a different top on it for that, just so we can keep this one nice for shows. On the bottom of the table here, we've got a few Porsche signs in process that I'll show you. This one is ready for more epoxy. You can see, just like the one we ran earlier, it's got areas cut out that's ready for the epoxy to go in. You can see over pour of the black and red that just went too much. So once this gets filled, the next step will be to flatten it and sand it like this one here. This one has, it's been flattened. The majority of it's been flattened. The rest that is not flattened and still has over pour on it, we're just gonna sand by hand to take care of and reveal all of the sharp lines like you can kind of see in here. This area is going to need sanded again. These are what you call tram lines, the lines from as the bit was passing and flattening it, you can see where it was. So that'll all have to get sanded out. We'll sand it up, make it look real nice, and then it'll be ready for the top coat of epoxy, which will get poured on. And that actually does not happen out here. We have a separate room where the pouring and all of the epoxy work happens. That is actually kept dust free and temperature controlled. So we'll go over there and see some of the stuff we have in process. All right, so this is the epoxy room. It's where all of the epoxy work happens. As you can see, it's totally separated from every other part of the shop. It's temperature controlled. We have some vents up in the gables to evacuate some of the hot air so that it doesn't get too hot in here. One of the cool things that's kind of unrelated to epoxy work is the fact that the lights in here are solar powered. The biggest thing about lights in the epoxy room is you want to have enough of them so that you can catch the angle of the light in whatever epoxy work you're doing, especially when it comes to clear coating, because that's how you see the imperfections in the clear. And so you can like move more material to that spot or pour more material to that spot. So that's kind of what I had learned in starting this whole process is in the final epoxy room, which is what we're in now, we need multiple lights throughout the entire length of it so that when we're doing the epoxy work, we can use the light to see the angle on the clear coat and catch an imperfection before it cures. So that's kind of the reason for the way that we have the lights set up in here. This is obviously the mixing table where we have all of our different epoxies and pigments to choose from to do all the mixing. You can see up here we've got all of our mixing cups and our pigments that we choose from. This is kind of the wall that we come to when we're looking at a logo and it's like, all right, we have to recreate this logo. What colors do we use? And so, you know, we've got all of our golds up top. This is all alpha pigment stuff. We've got golds, a nice range of blues to choose from. Some extra blues down here that is a different manufacturer from the alpha pigments. And then down here, we have our specialty colors. So this is like really wild colors that we use once in a blue moon. Color shifts. This Tsunami Super Flake is one of my favorite ones. As you can see, how much that changes based on the angle that you look at it. That's amazing. It's just really wild. And so obviously we don't use those a lot, so they're really small bags of those, but there's just a wild array of colors that we can do. One of my favorite ones is all these whites that you see here. They look white, but like this purple pearl, when you catch the right angle, it's white, but it has a purple flake to it. And we have that in red. This coastal color is like I don't even know, there's a green in that. Yeah. This xenon also looks like a purplish color too, but it's white, but you catch that right angle, and then like diamond blue, you have a nice blue flake to it. So it's just really wild, the possibilities and stuff that you can do with all these colors. It's just awesome. So I'll consult this wall when I'm looking at a logo. It's like, all right, what colors are we going to use for this or for that? All of our tables have self-adjusting feet on them. They pretty much are all level. You can see here, all you do is turn this knob with an Allen key and it'll raise or lower this foot. So every now and then I come back and put a nice big level on it and check to make sure that the tables are still level. But that's obviously a concern when you're pouring epoxy. If it's unlevel, it's going to all run in one direction. So you want to try and make the table as level as possible. And then that's going to save you time doing the epoxy work. You don't have to put it on the table and then shim it around it to get the piece level. As long as the piece is flat and it's on a level table, you're good to go. You can just start your epoxy work. All the epoxy work happens in here for signs, platforms, deadlift boxes, rack headers, everything. This one here is actually an insert for a 4x8 platform. It currently has matte polyurethane, which is our matte flooring polyurethane. It's not quite dry yet, but all of this was epoxy inlaid, sanded flush, and then we did our matte finish to it. All of the deadlift platforms come in like this. So as we do the platforms, they're either this size or that size, or right behind you if you want to see. The 6x8 platforms is the largest single piece that we'll do. The 8x8s are done in 2 pieces, 2 4-foot pieces. The 8-foot platforms end up looking like this, just 2 of these. And so we keep them at this thickness and size while we're doing the epoxy work, and it's not until the epoxy work is done that the full platform actually gets built. So this needs to be done and cured for a few days, and then it'll go back to the shop and we'll build the whole platform in, under, and around the finished piece of wood. So this is the center insert of a 4x8, so that it'll have like a 29-inch side panel and another 29-inch side panel. This particular one will be modular, so that gets held together with clips that are mounted to the front and back of the platform so that all 3 pieces hold itself together while you're using it. But the platforms that are not modular, that are made to just go down and be put there permanently, have kind of a tongue and groove finish between the top layer and the rubber. So the bottom layers of your drop zone slide under the wood insert, and then there's screws that you run in, and those screws kind of hold everything together. So it ships out on a smaller size pallet. It's a little bit less than 4 foot wide. It's usually about 43, 45 by 50-inch pallet. And all of the panels, it's 3 or 4 panels depending on the size of the platform, that just get stacked on top of each other on the pallet, a wall built around them, and then wrapped in cellophane, and it's done. All right, so this is a different piece, but it is a finished product of those Porsche signs that I was showing you earlier in the shop. This is essentially what it will all look like once all the overpour is sanded off, the edges are made ready, and then we pour on that final top coat of clear. This is essentially what you get. So super vibrant and glossy in color. It's really truly unmatched when it comes to prints or vinyl decals. You just can't match that vibrance and color and texture even that you can put into all the different colors. So a great example of what it goes from in process, like we were talking about, to the final product.
All right, so we're back in the main shop here, and we're going to wrap things up, but I wanted to ask Nate a couple of questions about his business. So what was the impetus for you to start Executive Fit to begin with?
I was personal training at the time, and I was looking for a deadlift platform for myself and couldn't afford what was out there on the market. But I saw what was out there on the market and realized that it seemed like the industry standard was a vinyl decal on hardwood flooring. And I'm a handy guy, so I was like, I'll just make my own. So I made my own. I used a stencil. It was a Punisher skull. It was a 4x8. Came out really nice. And a friend of mine was like, hey, you should put that on Facebook Marketplace. See if it sells. Well, I decided that was a good idea because I was falling out of love with being the personal trainer and realizing that that wasn't for me. So I kind of saw this as an opportunity to start making. I had a lot of fun making that first platform. I really enjoyed it. So I was like, let me do this. So I put it on Facebook Marketplace. This was right before COVID hit. And I had to start firing all of my personal training clients because so many people were asking me to build platforms. So I converted my 1-car garage gym into half a gym, half a workshop. Bought my first CNC machine, started doing some R&D of, all right, if I'm going to start building platforms, let's do it different than how the industry is doing it. Fell into CNC, discovered the world of epoxy. I put them together. And then when we sold that house and bought the current place that we're in, it had to have a shop large enough to be able to do a full-size machine and be able to scale and grow the business. And so here we are. So total time, it was about 6 years now since we started with the very beginnings. A lot of gyms are doing like the rubber inlaid platforms. So you still get the benefit of logos not peeling up, because you water jet the positive, water jet the negative, inlay that, glue it down to the floor, and it's part of the floor. But for standalone platforms, it seems like the industry is either just not doing custom platforms or they're stuck with vinyl decals on hardwood floors. So on all of our platforms, we have a no peel guarantee. Because it's physically impossible for your logo to peel up. But we started that because that was a big problem we were fixing in the beginning was, hey, we bought this platform 2-3 years ago. It looks great, except for the vinyl decal. It's peeling up. It's halfway missing. It looks like crap. Can you just fix this? And so a lot of platforms in the beginning, we were just fixing the problem of the logo's gone or the logo's halfway gone. So that kind of led us down this, hey, once we do this, it's in there for good. Right. You might need to refinish it in 4 or 5 years. but it's in there for good. So it was like, hey, let's offer a no peel guarantee. We know it's not going to peel up, but it sounds attractive, and it's true. If it ever does peel up, which it won't, but if it does, we'll replace it.
Right.
And because the logo is under that top coat of clear in the wood, and it gets sanded itself, by sanding it, you're not going to do any damage to the logo. Actually, the better that you can sand it to refinish it, the better the end product is. And that's kind of a thing we're building out, a service we're building out to be able to come out and sand and refinish stuff.
Now, since this is a home gym channel, and that's basically the market that you cater to, that's your demographic. You have a gym down in the basement.
Yes.
You showed me some sandbags. Is that what you're doing more? That's kind of your focus of training these days?
Yeah, so definitely I still deadlift. It would kind of be silly if I didn't. But I have left like the powerlifting style training, and just because I'm getting older, I'm focusing on more awkward stuff, sandbags, maces, swinging. But I've come to like the inertia wave. That's a fun tool. But I'm still deadlifting, still not so much bench pressing, but squats, variations of squats and stuff like that. But yeah, because it's been summer, I want to be outside.
Yeah.
And so the sandbags and just a barbell with some plates outside has been, I don't want to throw my back out, tie my shoe. I don't want to like jump off of something and hurt a joint. And so, I want to train to be able to do that, but stay strong. Right. So not forget these big heavy movements, the deadlift, the squat, the bench, like we were talking about earlier off camera again, at a certain point in life, you stopped jumping off of things. As you grew from a child to a teenager to an adult, you stopped jumping off of things. And then you haven't jumped off of anything for so many years, and all of a sudden, randomly, you go to skip a step down and you roll an ankle or blow out a knee. And it's because you haven't done anything for so long. Personally, that's where I want my focus to be, is focus on what I'm good at and do stuff that's going to benefit me in the odd positions I find myself in, and stay strong.
That's one of the reasons why I wanted to broach this topic, because, in the home gym community, we definitely like to do business with people who do what we do, training and so on, and that's how you got your start in this area. And I just wanted to make sure that people who see this know Nate's not just someone who sells to our community. He is part of the community. He used to be a trainer, still trains, and does what he can. But where do you see yourself taking this business, and do you have any ideas about what you see on the horizon for you to start creating?
That's good. I think the only way to scale this whole process that we've developed is people. And so I want to bring people in who want to learn. I want to bring in CNC operators. I want to bring in people who want to learn the epoxy work. It's got to be people. That's the only way that they scale this. We really can't outsource any part of this project. Most CNC shops are not set up for epoxy, for the way that we would need to use the idea of CNC for epoxy. So we've developed a really good process with platforms, with signs, with displays, with rack headers. With all the products that we make, we've developed a really good process. And so at this point, it's continuing to improve that process so that we can teach it to people in the business and then be able to handle more volume. I didn't go to a school to learn this. I didn't really have a mentor to teach me epoxy inlays. A lot of our process that we've developed is by trial and error. If I had a school, or if I had a course I could take to learn epoxy inlays when I was starting out, it would have saved me a lot of headache. It would have saved me a lot of trial and error. And so that's kind of my direction with the Epoxy Inlay Masterclass and the school group, the private school group, is to give people a resource where they can go to learn the epoxy inlays, to then not necessarily make the same things that I'm making, but to take that and go into the industry or the niche that they're into and implement this skill set into that.
All right. Anything else that you want to talk about or share before we conclude and wrap this up?
Thank you for watching.
Yeah. I hope you guys found this very interesting. I've been a fan of Nate's for the longest. As a creative, I love working with wood and watching him start this business and show reels on Instagram of the process and the finished product. And it's just been fascinating. Every time he shares something, it's just fun to watch, and seeing him do his work. There's a real craft and artistry to what he does. I know a lot of you guys have looked at his work and have been a fan as well. So, and actually have people appreciate all the hard work and time and effort that goes into what you do to create a finished product that people can appreciate and be proud of in their home gyms, stepping on a deadlift platform and seeing their own logo or creation that you've made something beautiful out of. So Thank you for everything
Absolutely.
you do. Appreciate you having
Thank
me
you,
over
man.
and sharing this
Absolutely.
space with me. meeting your family. They're all very lovely. Got to
Absolutely.
see them at Home Gym Con, which was
Yes.
cool. You got Home Gym Con coming up for next year as well.
Yes.
You'll be there.
Yeah.
This table you talked about earlier is fantastic to see this kind of come to life as a finished product.
It'll be there.
And perhaps you and I can collaborate on some work
That'd be
in
awesome.
the future. Yeah, that would be awesome. Now that I'm going to be getting into the metal fabrication, I
Yes,
think they could probably work well together. So
definitely.
we'll explore that. But again, thank you for your time. If
Absolutely.
anybody has any questions, you can reach him.
Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, ExecutiveFit LLC. That's it.
You got a website too.
ExecutiveFitLLC.com.
There you go. So if you have questions, if you're interested in any signs, custom deadlift platforms, the deadlift box, all of this stuff is really cool. Complete quality. I can see it for myself. I mean, I could tell from the reels this was quality work, but seeing the process is really made me appreciate all the time and effort that has gone into what Nate does. So if you're interested, reach out. He does some phenomenal work. It's all worth it. Thank you guys all for your attention and support of the channel. Again, if you have any questions for Nate, reach out. You can also drop comments in the comment section below. But I thank you for your time, and I'll catch you on the next one.
Right on.